In this video, I discuss 5 money rules that I wish I knew in my 20s. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
For those of you who've watched this channel for a while, you'll note that I never use investment buzzwords like alpha returns, fallen angels, hunting elephants, or 10-bagger. The reason is that those terms imply a casino-like environment in the markets where shrewd hedge fund managers have the glory of ripping someone's face off, to use a terminology in banking that is long since past, fortunately. Don't get me wrong, there are people that go all in, but those individuals tend to be small investors who find out very quickly that they are not the smartest person in the room. And it's very clear that they didn't have money rules that they followed. One only need to look at the rise and fall of cryptocurrency to know exactly what I'm talking about. 2 years ago, crypto evangelists professed that crypto was the money of the future and fiat currency was dead, until it wasn't. 2 years ago, I published a video that suggested that cryptocurrency wasn't for investors, but it was for speculators, and I was absolutely crushed in the comments section. They believed that crypto was so undervalued that many mortgaged their homes. Or worse yet, they convinced grandma and grandpa to mortgage theirs. Then, over the course of 2022, it dropped to 1/4 of its peak, and the comments suddenly ended. Now, it has since come back part of the way, but would you ever feel safe investing in something that volatile? And can the average crypto investor describe why it dropped to 25%, less than 25% of its value in 12 months? The money rules I described in this video I learned after I became a CPA, finished my MBA at the Kellogg Business School, and started my career in banking. What's funny, though, is that you don't need a CPA or an advanced degree to understand them. They're pretty common sense. Don't get me wrong, it's better to learn them a little bit later and apply them than to never learn them at all. And I, like a lot of people in my 20s, was just trying to figure out life at that time. All right, let's get into it. But before we do, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post once or twice a week. Rule number 1, time, return, or amount. Pick 2. Let me run through the one that's obvious for some of you, not obvious for many of you, but if it is obvious for you, this one will be a refresher and it's important foundation material for the rest of the video, but the ones that come next may be a little less obvious. In order to have a lot of money in retirement, you need to maximize 2 of the following 3: investment time, investment return, or investment amount. If you're 25 years old and you have 40 years until retirement, which most 25-year-olds do more or less, and you put $25,000 into an S&P 500 index that received an average return that it had in the past of 10.26%, then at the end of 40 years, your $25,000 would turn into $1.243 million. Let's say that you waited until you were age 35 and you invested $50,000 instead of $25,000, but you still received the historical S&P 500 return of 10.26%. That would be $936,000 at the end of 30 years. Wait another 10 years and invest $100,000 this time at 10.26%. For 20 years, you'd have $705,000. The point is that even if you wait 10 years and then double the investment you would have made 10 years earlier, that can't keep up with the historical return of the S&P 500, assuming that it stays that way in the future, because 10.26% doubles an investment about every 7 years. So time is the biggest contributor to investment success, and that's very important to learn at age 20. That is, unless, of course, you can somehow get a higher return than the S&P 500, which brings me to the next point. It's called risk, and it does exist, particularly in investments, but also in life. I can't tell you how many times I have read and deleted scam comments where someone talks about how they have this magical investment advisor who took $10,000 of their money and created a waterfall of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month or more in income from that single $10,000 investment. It's a scam. It's high risk. It's almost infinite risk because if it happens, it's almost entirely by luck. If they could do this for their clients, by the way, why would they ever do it for anybody else but themselves? Because they could take their $10,000, create this avalanche of income, and double down and double down and double down until they had millions of dollars a day coming in. The reason is because it's not real. Now, this viewer group tends to be pretty smart about money, or if not smart about money, at least critical thinkers, and 9,999 out of 10,000 people who read those comments would know that they're a scam. Maybe not quite that high, but directionally something like that. But did you know that when you read that comment and you immediately think this is a scam, you are assessing risk? If someone could really take $10,000 of your money and create $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a month or more in income, and you were sure, you do it every single day. But remember, it's not real. It's a scam. Risk is in every investment. Sometimes it's tiny, like investing in U.S. government bonds. Sometimes it's massive, like investing in a lottery ticket. Somewhere in between, the risk levels change and the return levels change too. It's the risk that an Italian sports car is more likely to break down than a Japanese sports car, that a college degree will be more profitable in the end than trade school. It's all an assessment of risk, and people do it all the time, just not necessarily with investments. But they can, and you should. You get the point. By the way, there is a great book if you want to know more about risk, not only in the markets but in life. It's called Against the Gods by Peter Bernstein. As always, I don't get compensation for talking about or making recommendations. It's just one of my favorite books. Next, there's a difference between market risk and company risk. Let me explain. Market risk is when you put your money into a market vehicle like an index fund or something similar, and it goes down because the whole market goes down. The S&P 500 lost approximately 20% in 2022. So if you had been invested in the S&P at the beginning of 2022, you would have experienced market risk. About 20% of your investment would have been lost on paper. But markets ebb and flow. On January 2nd, 2022, the S&P 500 was at 47.96. Last Friday, it was at 47.84, almost a 100% recovery. Company risk is the risk that an individual investment goes bankrupt. Within the S&P 500 index, there are 500 companies. In 2023, 7 of them, I believe is the number, went bankrupt. These included names like WeWorks, Party City, and Bed Bath & Beyond. It doesn't matter how long you hold on to those shares. Once a company goes bankrupt, the money's gone. They're not coming back. Next, don't pay fees unless there's real value add, and always understand what fees you're paying. Let me explain. I'm not a fee evangelist, by the way. I do believe in paying fees if there's real value add. Financial advisors, particularly those who act as your fiduciary, can structure your investments in the most tax-efficient way, and that will save you a lot of money in the long run. Harvesting tax losses properly, making sure you have long-term capital gains, not short-term capital gains, choosing low-fee mutual funds, all of those are services that a good financial advisor will provide. But then there are other times when you don't really know why you're paying a fee, and in some cases, you don't even know if you're paying a fee. This is a big complaint with mutual funds, by the way. The Vanguard group of companies, by the way, has built an entire business around a lot of no-fee mutual funds or low-fee mutual funds that have the same performance characteristics of their more expensive competitors. Remember the 25-year-old that I mentioned at the beginning of the video that put $25,000 into an S&P 500 index fund? The fund achieved the same return as it had in the past, 10.26%, and that yielded $1.243 million at the end of 40 years. What if the 25-year-old received 9.26% instead of 10.26% over 40 years? Well, the outcome would be $864,000, and that's $379,000 less, a full 30% less, because performance dropped by 1%. I will say that a financial advisor does a lot more than provide just market returns. They have bespoke portfolios based on your risk tolerance and your age. You can discuss what you want to achieve with them, and they can steer it a lot better than, say, a target-based fund. And as I mentioned before, they know which funds have high fees, which one have hidden fees, and which one have low fees. So a good one may be worth the investment, but you do need to do the work to come to that conclusion yourself. If you like this video, check out that video, The Big Difference Between the Rich and the Poor in Retirement. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.